Well, hello again and welcome to the Laughter Crafter channel for this week. I hope you've had a great week and I hope you've been doing some craft and doing lots of laughter as well. Last week, you may recall that I showed you a raffia hat that I was halfway through. I found it in the drawer when I went to look for the raffia and I thought I'd better finish that hat off, so I did. I've got a selfie wearing that hat and I ended up giving it to my young friend Emma because she wears hats more than I do and she really loves it. So I'll make sure that I put that picture up for you to have a look at the hat finished. This week I've got something rather different from a hat, and it's a teapot that I've done something a little bit different to, and here it is. It's a fairy light teapot that is going to hang in my garden over a plant, and I'm going to light it up at night, and it looks quite pretty, doesn't it? Very, very simple decorating on that. You can do this just by scribbling some designs of whatever you like onto a teapot. I'm going to show you how to do it. Really quite simple. So here's the limerick that goes with this craft. Here we go. This old teapot has finished up very singular with its lights that are fairy. Sorry, not sorry. With some simple designs, mostly circles and lines. Have a go and you won't find it scary. There you go. That's our craft for this week. I'm going to show you how to do it. So a joke before we get going. So my little grandchild decided he would chew on the electrical cords in my kitchen, so I had to ground him. There we go. Okay, why don't we get on with it now? Okay, so to make this teapot light, we need a teapot. Now I've been to the op shop and picked up this silver plated, well, I guess it's sort of a coffee pot really, but it needs a good clean, so I'm going to do that with bicarb and aluminium foil, and after I've done it I'll talk you through how I'm doing that. You need to have a pot that has a lid on it, because this is going to be out in the weather and it might get rained on, and you don't really want your little fairy lights getting wrecked inside with rain. So that's the pot that's going to be decorated. I'm going to first of all put a coating of gesso on it, and gesso is a water-based primer, if you like, for whatever else you want to do on top as far as painting and so on goes. I usually always give something a coat of gesso, and it's a good primer. On top of the gesso I'm going to paint a coat of white paint, acrylic again, which is water-based, and I'm just going to be using just this simple brush for both the gesso and the white paint. You could do whatever color you like, you could do whatever designs you like. Now on top of the white paint, once that's dry, I'm going to be using my Posca pens, and there's a whole bunch of colourful Posca pens down in there, and I'm going to be drawing on my design, and once it's all finished I'm going to use this Gorilla spray adhesive. It's heavy duty, it's easy to use, and it's multi-purpose. This will go on wood or metal, all sorts in fact, and so you want to make sure when you varnish you use a varnish that is going to be able to go on metal. But you could of course make this out of a china or a porcelain teapot. It doesn't have to be metal. Either way, this spray adhesive varnish will do for both metal or glass or ceramic, whatever you want. I've also got some petroleum jelly here that I'll show you what I'm going to do with that right at the end, when just before I use the varnish. So I think that's just about everything, and we are ready to start. So here's a photograph that I took when I was halfway through cleaning this coffee pot yesterday with the bicarb soda, and you can see that the top half I submerged in the bucket of hot water and bicarb that I dissolved, and that was the bottom half that was sticking out, and yeah, you can see the difference. And I put alfoil down the bottom too to help the reaction. So that's the photograph, and here's the pot when it's all cleaned and polished up, and of course it's going to have a coat of gesso on it now. I just wanted to point out that inside the coffee pot, I hope that you can see this okay, but can you see here the hole where there was a bunch of little holes, like those little holes, to strain the tea, or I guess the coffee, and I had to very carefully cut that out into a big hole, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to thread through the little tiny fairy lights, which is what I'll be doing at the end. So check inside whatever teapot you have, and if you have this strainy thing, think carefully about whether or not you can get that out, because you might need to find a teapot that you can that has a big hole, or that you can easily make a big enough hole. So anyway, that's the pot that's all polished up, ready to go. Now here's the petroleum jelly, and so I've just got a little cotton bud thing here, but you could use a tissue or anything, just a little bit of petroleum jelly on that cotton bud, and I'm just going to run it around this rim, just as a bit of a resist for when I paint on the gesso in a minute. And I find this is really good if you are using, especially if you're using something like resin and you're pouring resin over a wooden plaque or something, and you want it to drip off the sides and not harden on the bottom where you have to grind it off. If you run a coat of petroleum jelly, a thick coating along the bottom rim where the resin is going to collect, when it's all hard, it will just wipe off. So there you go, I've done a coat on there. So now I'm going to close that up, put the lid back on that and put it away. And now I'm going to get my gesso and paint a coat all over. So there's a coat of gesso done. It looks pretty patchy, but that's pretty much what it looks like, very chalky, and it's provided a key for me to do the paint on. So I'm going to start. Emma's just walked in my room. Hi Emma, how you going?
Going good, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, you know what? I was thinking about you. I reckon it would be really good for you as a young person to start to invest in stocks. You know, chicken, vegetable, beef, and then one day you might be a billionaire. I thought that you'd like that. All right, so I'm going to put a coat of white paint all over this, and so I'm going to continue doing that, and I'll see you soon. So I've done 2 coats of white paint on this pot. It's a little bit patchy, but I think it's going to be okay. So now I'm just going to sketch on some designs. I think I'm just going to do some gum leaves. So I'm going to do them in pencil, and it's sort of going to be pretty freehand. And gum leaves aren't perfect, they're quite wobbly, and so they cross over one another like that. And sometimes they have little bits missing out of them, like so. You know, where a worm comes along and has a bite. So I'm just going to carry on like this until I've sketched a design that I think works. So I'll see you soon. So I've drawn some leaves and some interesting geometric shapes on the lid, around the base, on the spout, on the handle. Started to draw a little design there on one leaf. So I'm just going to pick a couple of colours. I'm going to do some colourful leaves and some black and white ones, I think. So remember, we're not going for perfection, just going for a pleasing result. Now, if when you've drawn out your pencil sketch, you're not happy with something, you can just take a rubber. I actually have one of these little battery operated ones which vibrates, and you can see I've got some scribble down there which I don't need. I love these little battery operated ones. I do a lot of art, so I use this all the time. And so I'm just going to take off the bits that I don't want, but a regular eraser will do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to work away with some coloured Posca pens and do a few leaves, and we'll check back in a little while. So here's the little teapot all decorated with the Posca pens. You'll see that I've done leaves. Some of them I've kept black and white, some are in colour. Sort of a bit of an indigenous design going on here. I've put a geometric pattern around the base and around the spout and the lid and the handle, and it's all dry, and so I'm going to apply on a couple of coats of this Mod Podge gloss. Now the spray that I showed at the very beginning was actually, I didn't realize at the time, but it was a spray adhesive, and I don't want to spray on an adhesive, I want a sealer, and this particular Mod Podge does go on metal, it does say metal, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to do it outside, wearing a mask and wearing gloves and putting a covering down on my little outside table, and so I'll go outside and do that, and when it's dry we'll come back and have another look, and then we'll put in the lights. So here's the little teapot all varnished with 2 coats of clear varnish, and I think it's come up quite nice. Now you'll see on the inside I've got the little box with the AA batteries in, and when I varnished it, the lid didn't stick because I put some petroleum jelly around the rim, so that opens quite nicely. So let's turn on a little battery pack and light up these little fairy lights. Here we go. Woohoo! Here we go. I think this is going to look really nice hanging up in my garden over one of my pot plants. So there we go. So that's how to make the fairy light teapot to hang in your garden. So it wasn't hard at all, was it? You can do this. Just go and grab yourself an old teapot, raid one from Grandma's cupboard. Make sure you get one that you can make the hole big enough inside where the spout is to feed up the fairy lights through, and decorate it however you want and hang it up in your garden. You can do this. Meanwhile, don't forget to like and subscribe. Maybe you already are subscribed, but tell your friends about it. Get them on board as well. Get them crafting, get them laughing. Okay, in the meantime, do that yourself. Lots of laughter and lots of crafter, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.